Whoa, good evening, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good everything, wherever you are. Yes, within the globe, listening to me today. What is today? Father's Day. Everybody woke up, to that wonderful feeling. Everybody, I mean, fathers now, wonderful feeling. Everybody was just calling, texting, writing, and wishing ourselves, happy Father's Day and all that. Yes, that is what we're going to do today on the show, the Word Cafe Live show. We're going to be talking about fatherhood. Today is Father's Day, so we want to celebrate Father's Day. Amazingly, I have two guests, to share with me, on this topic. First of all, I'll bring them in, but I'll just talk about them a bit. Uncle Kehinde is the first person that I will introduce. Then, yes, my son, Jezreel D'Angelo. He'll be joining us in the studio briefly, though, to talk about one or two things about fatherhood. Are they here? Yes, they are here. So I'm going to bring them in right about now. Yes, Uncle Kehinde, good evening. You're welcome. You're welcome to the Word Cafe Live show. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Amakri, for having me. I must say, for a start, Happy Father's Day, Amakri. The last time I checked, you have 2 or 3 boys. You've been a father for a while now. So Happy Father's Day, Amakri.
Thank you, and happy Father's Day to you too. So let me bring in, there's somebody that will join us briefly, just 1 or 2 minutes and share 1 or 2 things. Then we will take him off and come back. And who is that person? You guys are all wondering. Yes, it's my son, my first son, Jezreel D'Angelo. Hi, Jezreel.
Hi, everyone. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Awesome. Look at the way you're sitting. What's today? What's happening today?
Today is Father's Day.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Today is Father's Day. So what do you think? What's your take on Father's Day?
I just want everyone to be happy so that we can celebrate the day for all fathers.
For fathers. Do you have any message for fathers out there today?
For them to enjoy themselves and have fun today.
Enjoy themselves and have fun today. Wonderful. So what's your advice to fathers today? What do you want fathers to do, to be?
I want them to be a good example for the world.
Okay, and
that's all.
That's all. All right. Thank you for coming on the show, okay?
Okay.
And you be a good big brother to your siblings, all right?
Okay.
That's my boy. All right, Jezreel, thank you for coming on the show. I know you're excited. You're going to talk about it and share with your friends.
Yes.
All right, then. Love you.
Love you too.
Bye, son.
Bye.
Okay. Uncle Kehinde, you know that feeling when you when you see when you see your son sharing moments with you, he's full of, Uncle Kehinde, you're muted. Can you unmute?
All right. I was just trying to be sure that I don't get in the way when your son was speaking. It was lovely seeing him on the screen. Yeah. How old is he?
He's 10. He'll be turning 11 by September.
Wow.
I remember that feeling when he was born, awesome. He made me a father, so to say, and all of a sudden everything changed for good. For good,
Absolutely.
and all that.
I would think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uncle Kehinde, you're welcome. You're welcome. Now, everybody wants to know who is Uncle Kehinde. Sorry, I keep calling him Uncle Kehinde, and I'll tell you in a bit why I call him Uncle Kehinde, but I'll allow him to introduce himself. His name is Kehinde Ojo. I stop at that. I will allow him to go on with the introduction. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much again, Amakri, and thanks to everyone listening to this podcast or watching if you have access to the screen. My name is Kehinde Ojo, and it's my pleasure and joy, great privilege to be on this podcast with Amakri. We've been friends now way back, I think quite a number of years now, more than maybe 15 years or even longer. I can't remember now.
More than that.
More than that, believe you me. And currently, I work for a Christian organization as a leadership coach, a leadership consultant, and a resource development consultant. For many years now, God has given me the privilege to serve Him in universities and colleges, first in Nigeria, then all over the world, in helping young people to grow in leadership and to focus on discipleship and missions, especially for the younger generations. So my background is in engineering, but for more than 30 years now, I've not had the privilege of practicing as an engineer since God called me to full-time.
You're engineering souls.
Something like that. to the kingdom. To the kingdom of God. Yeah. So that's a little bit about me. I'm married. Got married nearly 27 years ago. So Amakri, you are just sharing that moment when Jezreel came into your world. Mine was way back in 1996. My son was 25. My first son was 25 earlier this year. So for more than 25.
Did you say 25?
He was 25 in February, Amakri.
Adobale.
He was
awesome.
25. He was 25 back in February. He is an accountant and works with an accounting firm in Abuja. Yeah, that's my older son. And so we have two sons. My younger son is an architect. He works in Europe as an architect, and then we have a daughter, our only girl, who actually is 13 years today.
You don't say. Awesome. So you have tons and tons of experience when it comes to fatherhood, guys. Before we go into the discussion for the day, Uncle Kehinde, like we call him, I've known him way back since my undergraduate days in Uniport. Yes, on campus, I was serving in IFES, Nigeria Fellowship of Evangelical Students, and Uncle Kehinde, as we call our alumni and our seniors, we use that title, uncle. In Africa, we love respect and we don't joke with it. So that's how we refer to them, as in our seniors. He's been in my world since I think year one, if I'm not mistaken. So it's more than 15 years.
That's you're right. Truth. That should be
more than 15 years.
In the mid-90s, I would think.
Of course. Yes, I got way back. Yeah. So I've been around, he's been around me, and I've been around him somehow. We've been around each other, and sitting with him, hearing him talk to you, advise you, share experiences with you, I mean, it's invaluable. That is the truth. So I've known him. Awesome. Okay, now today is Father's Day. Everybody, as in for fathers, I woke up this morning, I shared some few thoughts about fatherhood, on my recorded episode that is for Word Cafe, and messages started coming in, people wishing you, and all that. We're just wishing ourselves. What is fatherhood? You have 25. I think that's your first. The second should be about 20, if I'm not mistaken, and the third 13. So you have them. What is fatherhood all about?
Wow. So I have 25 and 22 and 13 today. So it's amazing. It's been a great privilege. So honestly, if I'm to respond to your question, what is fatherhood? I would say first and foremost, fatherhood is a gift. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Okay, it's a gift.
Fatherhood is first and foremost a gift.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yes. So a gift from
I can hear you, Uncle Kehinde. I can hear you.
A gift from God. Fatherhood is the closest to sharing the nature, and is the closest to sharing the nature of God. You know, we live in a time and age where we are so consumed with doing.
Awesome.
And when we focus on doing, we miss something that's even more important than doing, which is being. And so if I'm to define fatherhood, the first thing I like to make clear is that fatherhood is first and foremost a gift. And I like it when you said, and Jezreel give you the privilege of being a father, but more importantly, it was God who extended that privilege to you through the birth of Jezreel. And so the privilege of being a father is the closest that reflects the nature of God in us.
Yeah.
And what do you do with a gift? Especially a precious gift as that of being a father, you treasure. You hold it there. And that's what you want to do, given the privilege of being a father. You want to treasure that status forever.
It reflects the nature of God.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. 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 Forever. You just want it to stay. You don't want it to, as in, I'm a father. Now, the concept of fatherhood, just like what you just said now, it did not emanate from us as in human beings. Rather, it emanated from God.
Absolutely.
A concept introduced by God into humanity, and we see ourselves receiving that gift. You know, I was listening to a poem, I would say, earlier today in church, and the presenter used that word, our Father who art in heaven. Exactly. Yeah, himself. Now, we live in a world today that we have a lot of concept redefinition. Things are being redefined. You know, you hear now like herd immunity. What we used to know as herd immunity is no longer what it is now. Do you think the concept of fatherhood is still relevant in our age and time today?
Thank you for that question, Amakri. I think before we address the question of relevance, we should focus a little bit more on definition. So, how do society in 2021...
Did you get my question, Uncle Kehinde?
I did. I had your question. I said before we address the question of relevance,
Hello, Uncle Kehinde. Did you get my question?
Yes, I got your question. Yeah. I got your question, Amakri. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I got your question. Sorry that we are having...
okay.
I got your question, and I was just attempting to answer your question. Should I go ahead? Should I go ahead? Can you hear me? Yeah, thank you. So you asked me...
I can hear you. Loud and clear. I can hear you.
Excellent. You asked me, is fatherhood still relevant today?
Yes, please go ahead.
Given the so many things that's happened in our world. And I said, it's good to pause and reflect on whether we actually agree on the term fatherhood before we start to discuss its relevance. Because unfortunately, in many circles, fatherhood has taken on a different definition that far does not have any semblance on God's concept of fatherhood. You know, when you look into scripture, let me just take John 3:16. For God so loved the world, and he gave. That tells you that something very striking about the concept of fatherhood from God's perspective is generosity, is sacrifice, is a life of denial. Sadly, the opposite is the case today. Today, we have absentee fathers.
Okay.
We have irresponsible fathers. We have abusive fathers. We have exploitative fathers. We have people who have nothing to do with the whole concept of Abba. I mean, when this whole concept of our Father who art in heaven, Jesus was drawing from what was prevalent in his culture. Abba, the Jewish society at the time, had huge recognition for the place of fatherhood. And when you see a father, you see a huge representation of value. And so when Jesus was going to introduce God to this audience, Jesus took something that was predominant in their culture and that had value in their culture. And so Jesus took the concept of fatherhood. And so he says to them, when you want to pray, say, Our Father. Why? Because Jesus knew the significance of fatherhood in the Jewish society, in the Jewish culture. Unfortunately, today, that's been lost, Amakri. That's been lost such that an average young man or woman today who has never had a physical father do not even understand what you are talking about when you are talking about fatherhood. Because sadly, most of the fathers are absent. And a young guy growing up who was abused by his father or stepfather do not understand what you are talking about when you're talking about the relevance of fatherhood. Because the last time he or she checked, the one they had did not have anything close in terms of positivity to the whole idea of fatherhood. So when we are saying is fatherhood relevant, we say yes, but not the society's definition of fatherhood that speaks more of authority than responsibility. Every time I talk to fathers, I talk to husbands, I always remind them that when you say you are the father in your house, do not get carried away with the authority you have as a father. You must recognize that that authority communicates responsibility. And if there's anything that's missing in today's society, Amakri, is that sense of responsibility of what it means to be a father. We have gone, we are faced with many situations as a country, and we seem to have lost focus and huge societal loss in terms of values because the fathers are our wall. They are gone away without leave. Amakri, I seem to have lost you in a moment, and I don't know whether my audience is still able to hear me. I hope Amakri comes back in a minute, and we are able to continue this conversation. So, do we need to have fathers in today's society? Yes, but not just fathers who are taking the space and who are not making any difference. You would hear from Amakri's son when he asked him, what do you want to say to fathers? That 10-year-old son said, I want them to be a good example. And I hope we come to that in the course of this conversation, because today's world are in need of examples. We are in need of people who are able to stand their own ground and be good example models to society. Like I said also, there are so many fathers who are absent. So that has created a large pool of fatherless people all over the place. And these young people are in need of models. People who can model authenticity, people who can create values, people who are givers and not grabbers or takers. We lost you in a minute. I'm glad you are back. I just continued to speak while I was waiting for you to reconnect. Amakri, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, glad you're back.
I'm back.
Yeah, glad you're back.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. And I thought while you are away, my guess is that your audience was still connected, and then they were able to hear what I was sharing. So I spoke.
Can hear you. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. I'm hearing you loud and clear. Amakri, I'm hearing you.
Hello, Uncle Kehinde, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. I can hear you well.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. All right. Yeah, I got a bit of what you said before the network threw me out. So fatherhood is more spiritual than biology, if I understand you correctly there.
Fatherhood takes its essence.
Okay, are you there?
Yes, I'm speaking. Can you hear me? Well, I'm speaking. I'm hearing you, and I'm responding to your question.
Hello?
I can hear you, Amakri, loud and clear.
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay. All right.
So I said, fatherhood takes its essence from God, and that makes it spiritual. Fatherhood takes its essence from God. Like I said earlier, fatherhood is a gift. And fatherhood takes its bearing from God, and that makes it first and foremost a spiritual responsibility. However, the spirituality of fatherhood works itself out in the material. So fatherhood, first and foremost, is a gift, but it expresses itself in presence. And like I said earlier, before we talk about the task of fatherhood, we must recognize that it's important first to be present as a father. The task you are able to carry out is a follow-up to your ability to stay on ground and show what it means to be a father. Today, unfortunately, we have so many people who think fatherhood is an activity. They take the whole concept of provision to the extent that they are not present, but they provide. And so we have abundant resources, but no authenticity. no models, nobody who is showing the way, but we have someone who through Jumia provides all the available and the necessary gadgets. But the children do not need gadgets, they need presence. So fathers who are listening to this podcast should recognize that in acknowledging the gift of fatherhood, it expresses itself in presence. Our Father who art in heaven. Then we know, yes, he's in heaven, but it's also close to us. Hallowed be your name, thy kingdom come. We want to have an encounter with God through that prayer. And the whole essence of the Father, our Lord's Prayer, is in an acknowledgement.
If I get you correctly, Uncle Kehinde,
thank you all for your patience. I'm sure he would be able to come back again to reconnect and join the conversation. I'm not sure if you guys have access to the chat box. If you have comments or questions, I'm sure it will be okay for you to type those in the chat box while we wait for the host to reconnect. So it would be nice to have you type your questions and comment in the chat box. I guess Amakri wants me to speak on the connection between fatherhood and nation building. If I understand you correctly, Amakri, you would like me to speak on the connection between fatherhood and nation building. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Exactly.
A whole lot of people have clearly admitted that we are in a challenging situation in Nigeria, given our current realities. The spate of kidnapping, insecurities, carnage is largely unexplainable. And friends, if you ask me what has led to this challenge we are facing as a nation, I will put it squarely at the feet of fathers. You remember that we use the phrase, the fathers of Nigeria. And we talk about the great leaders that brought independence, not just to Nigeria, but across Africa. We call them the fathers of the land.
Yeah, we do.
Why do we do that? We recognize their sacrifice.
Yeah.
We recognize their hard work. We recognize their selflessness. Yeah. We recognize their diligence in ensuring that Nigeria became a nation years ago. They gave everything to help Nigeria to gain independence. They were not self-centered. They were not greedy. They were certainly not corrupt. All that mattered to them was to birth a nation, a productive nation. What has happened over the years is sad, because that generation, as it were, passed, and values were no longer transferred. So we got to a point where, if I use the illustration from scriptures, a time came when there was no king in the land, and everyone did what was right in their eyes. That clearly tells you not just about kinship, it tells you about fatherhood. And so a nation without fathers will certainly come to ruin because there's nobody to provide guidance. There's nobody to provide good and credible examples. And so if there's anything that we should be thinking of on a day like today, is the need for us to return and bring back to society the place of fathers. And like I said earlier, fathers who are genuine and sacrificial and ready to model to the younger generation what it means to be content, what it means to have a name, what it means to fear God. Because sadly today, that's largely missing. With the level of impunity we have in the land, you know that the fear of God is no longer in our society. And the younger folks are looking for credibility. They are looking for mentors. They are looking for people who can model responsibility, not exploitation to their generation. Yes, for God to rebuild our nation, we need fathers. We need, as fathers, to work collaboratively, to learn one from another, and to close the gap that already exists in society. Sorry about your network, Amakri.
Okay.
I'm here. Sorry about your network. I'm so sorry that your network.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. Just look at the screen. I can hear you. I hear you.
The network has been, the network has been acting up. It's just,
Sorry about that. But I can hear you well, and I've been speaking while I'm waiting for you to get back on the call. Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you too. I can hear you.
Yeah. So I've just been speaking about
it has been acting up.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I've just been speaking about the connection between fatherhood and nation building. And I started earlier by saying that the people that gave back to the nations across Africa were people
for the sake of time and quickly, one last question before we call it a day on the show, because the network, it's okay. Hello, Uncle Kehinde.
Yes, I'm here.
Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear.
I'm so sorry. The network has been.
That's beyond.
trying to
That's
stop
beyond
us from having our conversation.
that's beyond your control. There would always be other
It's
opportunities.
beyond
That's beyond your
exactly.
control. Yeah. So you are going to
Yeah.
ask me a
So
last
lastly,
question.
yes, yes, one last question before we go for the sake of time. Now, we have looked, you've talked about the issue of the spirituality behind fatherhood, the importance of fatherhood behind nation building.
Absolutely.
Now, how do we get the next generation of young men to embrace and appreciate this concept of fatherhood and put their strength behind it to see that it works?
Very good question. And I really hope that the network would allow us to discuss this briefly. You know, when we started some minutes ago, one of the first things I said was an acknowledgement that fatherhood is a gift. You know, when we don't recognize that everything emanates from the realm of the spirit, we make a mess of things. When you understand that fatherhood is a gift from God, and you know ultimately you will give an account of your stewardship of that gift, it helps you to sit up and ask yourself, how can I make a difference? And one of the things I said earlier, without even expecting that you are going to phrase the question this way, is that this is the time for collaboration, Amakre. I'm so sorry, the knowledge gap is huge. There are a lot of clueless fathers in society today, especially among the younger generations. One way to bridge that gap is what you are doing through your podcast. And so kudos to Word Cafe. Keep it up. That's one way that you are responding to closing the gap that currently exists. So we can close that gap through collaborations, through conversations, through peer accountability. It would be nice to have young fathers getting together to compare notes and to be brutally honest and be committed to accountability. Courage is also important. I don't know whether you've seen Courageous. Courageous was a film that was produced some years back.
Thank you.
Maybe in commemoration of Father's Day. But the goal is to ensure that people come together. So let's think collaboration. Let's look for ways to network, to share ideas, to share lessons that we are learning in our journey of being fathers. Our Heavenly Father remains our perfect example. Jesus in the Gospels tells us to be perfect just as our Father in heaven is perfect. So if we want to aim towards perfection, we have an example in God the Father. And as we draw closer to him every day, we get strength, we get encouragement, we are motivated and inspired to want to give our best to our generation. And like I said, we then need to be present because the younger generation will change when they see in us good examples. And don't forget, that was what your son said. When you asked him, what message does he have for fathers?
The movie Courageous.
Yes. When you asked your son what example he has of what message does he have for the fathers, the only thing your son said is, I want you guys to be good examples. Because nothing works like being an example. They can see you and they can model because they see in you authenticity. They see in you that you are walking the talk. What you say is what you do. And that encourages them, and they really do want to be like you. I have this amazing and funny story told by a friend of mine many years ago. On a Saturday morning, while he was still on his bed idling away, his son walks into the room and says, Dad, my friend said, yes, how can I help you? He said, you know what? I want to be like you when I grow up. And my son thought, where is he coming from? What's on his mind? So he asked him why. The guy, to the shock and disbelief of his father, he said, you do absolutely nothing in this house. Mom does virtually everything. And I just want to be a father who does nothing. I think my friend woke up and hopefully should have made some adjustment since that time. Friend, fatherhood is not a title. Fatherhood is to model the father nature of God to our current society. That would take some effort from us. That would take some determination from us. But that's possible if we trust God and we dare to be that model that communicates authenticity to this generation. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Uncle Kehinde.
My privilege.
Yeah, I need to apologize to my audience. The network has been acting up. So we're going to leave it at this, but I want to let my audience know that we're going to have a rematch on this, as in a repeat, I beg your pardon, on this. The discussion on fatherhood is one that we cannot make light of, but rather one that we should approach with every ounce of seriousness within us. Uncle Kehinde, I want to say a very big thank you for the honor you've done us on the Word Cafe Live show, to come around and share with us. We say thank you so, so much. Oh, guys, I have to let Uncle Kehinde go now for the sake of the network. We've been battling with it. But don't worry, it's one of those things. It will get better. The way we do it on the show, it will get better. And we'll get Uncle Kehinde back on the show. Thank you so much. All right, people. At this point, I have to sign off. But just to let you know, yes, just to let you know, this is how we do it on the Word Cafe live show. We bring in guests to discuss topical issues, and share moments, with us. Like today, we're talking about the fathers, celebrating fathers globally. So you've heard from Uncle Kehinde. We're going to have a repeat. I promise. I'm going to bring him back, subsequently, and we're going to discuss on other topical subjects. I am your host on the Word Cafe Live show, Amakri Isoboye. Thank you for joining. Till I come your way again, don't forget, I believe in the power of words. Why? It is the unit of creation. Bye for now.